I'm Joe. Here with me is as a guest to celebrate 1 year of Cull and Conan content on here at the Brothers Crin is World of Conan.
Congratulations, dude. You'll soon hit 1K, and congratulations as well. So it's awesome that you have been doing like videos on the Conan stories, like we were just talking backstage, that you guys are doing, like dissecting the stories in chapters. And I said, like, that I really like that. That's really good. I really like that. I've been listening to the Red Nails videos you guys have been doing.
Oh, thanks.
So,
that's the highest.
Yeah. I've been really cool.
What?
And I also saw the comparison, Aragorn and Conan.
Yeah, we did that for you since you had expressed it.
Yeah. Thanks. That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I never thought about it, because obviously I don't really know a lot about Lord of the Rings. You're the expert. So I didn't really know that there was, like, that you could compare. That there was some kind of
similarity,
so to speak. Yeah, similarities. Yeah, but that's really to know.
Yeah, because I only read the summary, like, of some of the events of the Hour of the Dragon story, just mostly when looking for content for the channel. And I was I've read Lord of the Rings a few times, and I was struck by all these similarities. Even in someone had messaged me at one point quote of Conan and the Pirates, and said a joke. I forget what the joke was. It was on Facebook with a friend of mine. And what happened was I saw that quote and I flashbacked kind of to reading an Aragorn quote like that. And I went, oh my God. And I asked that guy, who wrote that? Because I'm surprised that, they got away with it because of the Tolkien estate and whatnot. Like, isn't there plagiarism or something like that? And it's like, no, this is from Howard. What? And it was so similar, so identical. I went, hold on. And, then I had to look it up even more. And that was an eye-opener. So that was a big deal. Currently, I'm hoping at some point to redo our early Cull videos into the Book Club podcast format as well. Mostly Shadow Kingdom, where the Serpent Men first show up. But that'll probably be a while, because there's a lot of Conan stories Dan and I really want to cover, such as, Elephant Tower, since people requested that some time ago. When we did a poll, the winner was the Red Nails story, and then the runner-up was Tower of the Elephant. So Dan and I are going to be doing a couple of videos on that, and then moving on to other Conan stories, which, and we're currently we've also been watching the cartoon and the TV show to do more reviews on that as well. Just because we're not familiar with that like you were, and it's one of those things where it's so, no offense to anyone who loves it, but we're finding it so bad in some ways. We're actually having a great time watching this stuff. It's so funny.
Which?
The 92 cartoon and the 1997 live action TV series. We're finding both really, really funny to watch.
You're watching both?
So, both of them are called Conan the Adventurer.
Oh, no. Yeah. So you're watching both. Yeah.
One then the other. So that's pretty funny. And hello, Grimdark. How are you doing? Great to have you here.
Grimdark. The live action. Yeah, I watched like half of that first episode, and I was like, I got something else to do. I just when Conan, Ralph Möller, who acts as Conan in that, and he's like does something like that, really goofy, and I was just like,
I know.
I had such a, like, I don't know, mind flip or something. I couldn't really process. Is this Conan? Like, I couldn't really. I did that with Hercules, because I grew up with Hercules,
Yeah,
the adventures of Hercules. I understand that, but Sorbo was he was kind of he had goofy moments and funny, but he wasn't like ridiculous all the time.
no,
at all. He
he
was like a good guy, but with a pretty normal.
yeah, he was charismatic and charming. Oh, and I'm glad you're doing good, Grimdark, and happy to have you here. But with Hercules, the other thing is that the Legendary Journeys show, in terms of the characterization of Hercules, they didn't always tap the rage of Heracles from the Greek myths, because Heracles did have a lot of rage, but they did end up actually clinging closer to the Greek myths than the Roman myths, and then most people realize, because like I grew up reading all the Greek myths over and over and over again, especially Heracles. So when watching that show, like as a kid and as an adult, I went, that's actually kind of accurate to the Greek mythological character, at least as far as I know. So I went, like, I could forgive that show everything because I love it so much, and because of the general accuracy to the myths. But yeah, this Conan TV series, not great. It is so bizarre. And
Right.
anyways,
I got that immediately. I was
Yeah.
like, it
but
doesn't live up to the Hercules either.
no. But moving on to the main subject of this stream, we
Yes.
went on a couple of
do it.
tangents. Well, I'm just glancing at my notes because I've got them right here. And the first story involving the Serpent Men seems to have been the Shadow Kingdom, where we see Kull and Brol go on a Serpent Man killing spree,
Yeah.
which that's one of my favorite Howard stories. And hello to Joe.
I loved it as well. It's one of my favorites as well.
It's the first Howard story I ever read, personally. I don't know about you.
That's a good question. No, I think I read the Conan stories first. I bought the omnibus,
Oh, good choice.
the big collection, and then I bought the Kull
Story. Yeah, I got that one
Atlantis. Yeah.
on Kindle.
Yeah, like recommended. It has like awesome illustration.
Yeah. The Kindle has all the illustrations, but I'm going to need to buy the actual physical copy at some point.
It's
Look at
really
that.
good looking. Yeah.
Yeah, such a great book.
Like here's the story in question. See, Kull with the Serpent Man.
Oh, here, I'm going to focus on your screen. Let me see if I can somehow... I'm trying to get you focused. I'm not very good at this. So, I don't know how I can enhance this. But, put the link to the stream on Discord.
You can share screen. It's you typed.
Okay.
You click the share screen, and then I think.
Okay, let me see about that. And now share that. Okay, this is getting weird. I don't think I did that right.
Oh well.
I put it in my Discord. Okay.
It's pretty good.
It's- Hello, Spectre, and great. The Book of Kull has great art. It's on a par with a lot of the art in the Tolkien, Silmarillion, and Lord of the Rings books. Yeah, thank you for showing it. In the story, though, the Serpent Men are probably the creepiest, in some ways, I find, of all the Howard villains. I love Thoth Amon as a villain. I love a lot of the others, but for example, Olmec and Tuskela. Tuskela is the only one I find kind of comes close to being as creepy as the Serpent Men. It's just the aspect of enslaving the very spirit of a person after you've killed them kind of creeps me out, as they've apparently done for the past 1,000 years to all the spirits of the kings, or yeah, I think it's kings, not emperors, but kings of the Volusian Empire. And that is rather creepy, as you've got 1,000 years of people who didn't even realize their kings had been replaced or killed or manipulated and otherwise controlled, and their spirits enslaved by these snake men. So I just find that one of the creepiest and one of the most interesting and cool parts of Howard's Legendarium. I hope you pardon my using that Tolkien term for Howard, because I do think we should basically call it a legendarium. It's an entire mythology.
Yeah. Well, this is where it gets kind of tricky. Like, what is Howard Conan? I say Conan. What is Howard canon? And most of this stuff is like extra canon from different writers. So
yeah.
So like I got a pretty how would you say, like I just accept everything basically for the most part, because otherwise there's so little Howard stuff. Like obviously I'd liked if he lived and written extensively about all of this, but we really don't have that much information. So a lot of other authors wrote more into the backstory and stuff like that. But
And
interesting.
a lot of them, like I just started reading the Roy Thomas comic book run of Conan, and he does a pretty good job. I've only read like 2-3 issues, but he's done a pretty good job. So
Yeah,
I do get it. I'm not familiar with like the expanded Conan stuff. I've been sticking to Howard so far and reading it slowly for the channel, because otherwise I get the feeling I'm going to lose and miss stuff. I'm trying to read half as well as what our guest in the chat, Grimdark, does, but I don't know if I always do as good a job. But yeah, I think.
but I just. No, I just meant like when you just even look up information like from different websites and different books, information like on different things like the sermon or stuff, you don't really know which is from Howard directly only, because there is just a limited stories and limited stuff that he wrote, letters and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And many times it doesn't say like from where this stuff originated from exactly,
What's
unless you
interesting-
know every letter of Howard, like you just remember them all, you go with them all, and then you basically know everything. But I'm not at that point, so I don't always know like exactly what everything is from where it is. I mean,
well,
so
what I was going to
that's why
say though is,
yeah.
it seems like Howard had been reading. I think he mentions in a letter, just to reference this. I only remember this one letter. I've been reading the letters on a separate podcast, and I can't remember most of the information right now. But I think he mentions that with the Shadow Kingdom, he was reading a lot of Freud and Jung, and kind of got a lot of their ideas into his head, and when he was writing the story. And I think it was in one of his letters, and I read this up last year, and it's something that intrigued me, is in that he wanted to make it more psychological, the Shadow Kingdom story. But the trouble was he grew a little dissatisfied, I think. And the thing is, you could see all the psychological element and the shadowy aspect to the Snake Men story here, along with the idea of monkey versus snakes, as Howard often kind of posited with the Snake Men versus man, so to speak. I think there's a psychological theory or something. Someone wrote a brilliant essay on this thing that I read a while back. I can't remember it. I wish I did. But needless to say, he had a lot of psychology theories basically running around in his head, mostly Carl Jung, because he was an avid reader of Jung and Freud. I'm just gonna laugh a little about Howard because, of course, he did. Of course, he was a genius. But it's a kind of feel that I think he said that there were other cult stories where he got his head full of these universal unconscious and other ideas like that in his head, and he wanted to explore it. But then when he was writing Conan, he said, I don't think I wrote it quite well, so I'm not going to revisit things in the same way I did before, like with the cult stories. And he moved on to Conan. So it's something I like until I saw that quote of his about Kull and the psychology and stuff. I didn't know that he was such an avid reader of people like Hume, but it makes sense considering Howard just was a man who read everything. Like,
oh yeah.
I remember I was at one point researching some of the best, most well-read men in the 20th century, and some of them like didn't read half as much as Howard, and it's just amazing just how much he knew. Like, you have to compare his intellect in a way to Tolkien, who was a genius, who knew everything about linguistics, about history, mythology, and yet Howard, who did not have the funding, did not have the academic, support, Howard was able to match blow for blow intellectually. And yeah, as Grimdark points out, he was often cut off from knowledge, so he learned to appreciate everything he could find. Yeah. Part of me almost wishes Howard got the funding, though.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to say, I remember reading that Howard, at least his father loaned a lot of books Howard or Robert wanted to read all the time, like new stuff. So his father brought a lot of books, and I also think I read that they visited a lot of friends, and he would loan the books and stuff like that, gather a lot of books from everywhere to read, and obviously the library and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just, remember reading about Howard.
There's someone who said in call stories being some sort of psychological metaphors makes some sense from Joe Machin, or Joe Machin, I think it's pronounced in English. Yeah. I think it just occurred to me, I think we could compare Howard in a way to Good Will Hunting. In a way, like he was the guy who got a education and became so brilliant, like based around the idea of, like Tolkien got it through scholarships and whatnot, but Howard got it through $1.50 in late charges at the local library, in a way. Like, that's the interesting thing. Now, the Snake Men apparently are revealed by the phrase Ka Nama Ka Lajarama, which the Snake Men cannot pronounce, which does show that Howard was playing with languages and linguistics as well.
Yeah.
I just find that such a funny phrase, also because the Serpent Men can't pronounce it. And so it's some sort of... it's painful for them to hear it. So I just love that part of the lore, that they could disguise themselves with their magics in any way they want, but the minute they hear that, the illusion melts away.
Thinking about this stuff, like, could one say like the cult stories are more metaphysical, like they're more like like reality and stuff? Because I remember I read the years ago the Mirrors of Tusun Thun, that is a cult story.
Oh yeah.
And it starts with a brooding on his throne, and goes and visits this person that has a huge mirror that shows like the past, the future, and then he like
kind of like Galadriel's fountain.
Yeah, and then he like ponders like all this stuff, and he he's brooding over everything. Because you don't really see Conan in his stories thinking about, like, obviously he said his ideas of reality and stuff like that, but not much really, not in this sense, like really going more into the, how would you say, cerebral territory, while Conan is more like action territory, like in his deeds.
Yeah.
Like if he wants something done, he does it, obviously. But no, that you mentioned that, all that stuff, I just started to think like that actually, that kind of like makes sense when that they're more cerebral, like they're, like, what I mean, it's more like mind focused in a way, instead of the action focused, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just a thought I had.
It's certainly true. The most action one, yeah, I know there's the one where he gets together with Brill and they fight in those Pictish wars, but to me, the one with where he says, "By this axe I rule," and yeah, I'm glad Spectre. I was going to answer Joe Matt Shaney's question of, does the sentence actually mean anything, or is it just gobbledygook? And Spectre just answered, yeah. Thank you, Spectre. Yeah, I think there is more metaphysics in Kull's story, with metaphysics being the study of spirits through kind of scientific mathematical theories, and the idea that there's a common energy amongst a certain people, such as the English metaphysics, the French metaphysics, and all that. And I think that Thulsa Doom, that story with all the mirrors, it is a lot more metaphysical. There is a lot more psychological and cerebral and philosophical, even almost theological there. Just Howard's just, with the Kull stories, pondering such immense questions. And if you look at even the notion of the Ka-nama, Ka-lajrama thing, one can kind of see it as almost a metaphysical attack on the serpent men. They can't say this phrase. It is in a way something they cannot, in spirit, stomach. They can't handle it. And in turn, it's not harmful at all to men, but the thing is, to humans, it feels like it's something they've heard before. It seems, at least in the case of Kull, like he's heard it before, but he doesn't know where to place it, I think. And in turn, the snake men, it's almost painful to them. So it isn't like a spell. It is kind of like one, but it's also, there seems to be something that Howard is doing there where he's kind of showing that even in terms of their spirits, even non-magical folk, like the average man, the average serpent man, are on a spiritual level and on a metaphysical level completely the antithesis to each other. They're opposites, and there should almost be no mixing between them. And there should be, like, they're basically enemies at their core in a way. And yet, yeah, like with this story and the mirror story, there's so much that Howard is doing, and definitely have to re-examine those stories.
Yeah, same.
Podcast.
Same. I haven't really gotten time to call stuff. I've been so far on the Conan stuff.
Same.
So really, I have to reread all. But now thinking back, like what I was saying was, like you said, in a way that he shifted with Conan away from the Kull style that you said he wrote in the letter that's not really satisfied. So he like changed his perspective a bit and changed his writing style, or how he would to tell the story, and he went in a different direction. At least
Yeah.
when you read the Call stories and you read the Conan stories, they're definitely different. Even though they have a kind of a Conan are similar, but still
Yeah,
the stories
they're both barbarians who became kings.
to them, and but the feel to them and the world and all that, like Colin, they seem much more mystical. Like they're much more mystical, and Conan stories are much more grounded. At least that's how it feels to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed the same thing. And that's why it's so weird that in the 92 cartoon, they brought the Serpent Men in as Conan's villains. At least it seems weird to me because, that seems more a Cull fixture than a Conan fixture. And there's
Iconic villains.
Yeah, fair enough. And there's something to say about Serpent Men versus men, kind of. Like, there's something there, I think.
Mm.
And I'm just going to comment on the fact that apparently it was a Pictish shaman or sorcerer who discovered that weird Kanama phrase. So it's interesting that it was a closely guarded secret of the Picts, and Cull gets that from Broll as a show of trust between them as they're about to engage in all-out battle of these. I hope it's okay to use this term, monsters, because they kind of are behaving monstrously. I imagine Grimdark would probably correct me and have a lot to say. That would, that would be a lot smarter than what I just said. But I think there is a certain amount of monstrosity to them in the Shadow, at least in the context of the Shadow Kingdom story.
Yeah. No. I think I read somewhere that the Serpent Men towards the islands later on, like much later.
Yeah, I read the same thing.
Where the Picts had come from. So I imagine, so I think Picts had come with the Serpent Men, or one of the first other races that came in contact with Serpent Men. Obviously, as it's reading up about the Serpent Men, they were one of the first races, so they dominated the ages, and when man came upon the scene, they became slaves for the Serpent Men, like that line that helped them then different men or rise up. And in the Shadow Kingdom, they're basically they have to play from the shadows, or like not be visible. Like they don't have the force anymore, or to be conquered in the like they were in their first and ancient empire. They ruled most of the earth. So now they're like behind the throne.
Yeah, in a way, them getting weaker with the age it reminds me a bit of a Tolkienian theme of the elves getting weaker and more weary with the passage of time. They're immortal, but they're getting weaker with every age that passes. And I think it's like the Snake Men are supposed to have been spawned 1 million years ago, and were the spawn of Sliggooth, son of Set, I think, at least according to what I looked up.
Yeah, the Chill Set.
Yeah, well, grandchildren. And they're apparently dominated in the initial age, and then 1,000 years before the Shadow Kingdom, the remnants came to take over into the shadows and ruled for 1,000 years, which kind of makes me wish we got. I know it might be weird. I don't know if a later author did this, but I kind of hope that someone wrote a story of how Cull came to the throne, so to speak, and how this might have been a wrench in the Snake Men's plans, because they've been running this show for 1,000 years. They probably didn't see this barbarian from Atlantis coming to take over, and because we know there's a civil war right beforehand, and that Cull's predecessor wasn't exactly a great monarch. Cull was the best general, so obviously he was a tool of the Snake Men. I don't think they saw his usurpation of the throne kind of coming. and the Shadow Kingdom is the story where they're trying to course correct in their favor. At least that's my interpretation of the story. But I would like to see
Probably
a full-length novel on the usurpation.
Oh yeah. They all call like just with spells and illusion that they have been doing. They seem kind of a race that would prone to be pretty arrogant, like that. We have control for thousands of years. Who's this one man gonna? What's he gonna do? Like we can control this easily from behind. That's why it kind of alludes to when Carl says like you haven't been born to slaying, you haven't been born to fight as I have. You're priests. So he's like, and then they say like afterwards, if these were fighting men, I would have died here. Carl would have died in. But because they were priests and they probably like they don't do the fighting themselves, they manipulate and stuff like that, and they were arrogant and thought they could take him. They died instead, all 17 of them. So grown arrogant.
Which it makes me wonder about their lifespan. Do they live for 1,000 years, or do they have similar lifespans to us? Because if they age like humans do, then they'd be the descendants of those who took over 1,000 years ago. If they have been alive for a full 1,000 years, then this might sound weird, but I can kind of get why they get arrogant, because you've been dominating the show for 1,000 years, and it is essentially we've been running this for so long. What you gonna do? What can one guy, or even two, if we count Brill, because I love the Spear Slayer, we have to count him. What can two guys do against us?
Yeah,
but obviously a lot more than they expected. Yeah.
From what I read, they're basically immortal. They but they can be killed. I did find an interesting thing in the Conan stories about this. Speaking on Set in the story, the god of the bowl, or in the completely forgot this. The god in the bowl. Completely. They say about Set. They say that when they found in the bowl, it says it is the sign of Set, the old serpent, the god of the Stygians. This bowl is too old for a human world. It is a relic of the time when Set walked the earth in the form of a man. The race which sprang from his loins laid the bones of their kings away in such cases. So Set is the father of this men race, but Set was a human being, or they say that Set was that he walked the earth like the great serpent, the dark god. That's really interesting. That's in the Howard canon, so which I read.
I'm just going to try to reconcile it to some of the cosmic style horror that Grimdark's often talking about on his channel. Hope you don't mind, because Set's supposed to be Yig, the great serpent, in one form of the canon, but for him to have walked the earth as a man, either he was, like you said, originally a human or of some sort, or possibly he incarnated himself. Like he basically fashioned for himself a body and put himself into the body when he came into the mortal realm. And basically did his thing there. And I kind of lean towards that theory. I kind of lean that way. But they're kind of. I think it would be natural for them now that I think about it.
Interesting. Indeed.
And I'll just respond to someone in the chat. Joe Meshin. Certainly, this stream will be up on the channel. so you will be able to watch the end of it. Do take care. She's a regular on mostly in our Tolkien content, so I'm glad she's listening on some of our Conan stuff, because the like that's kind of what I want the channel to be here. Like, we're a bridge between the Conan, the some like the Tolkien stuff and the Dragonlance stuff, so that people can then jump over to channels like yours, World of Conan and Grimdark, and like get deeper into Howard and like so that Tolkien fans and other fantasy fans can jump over, make the transition easily. That's what this channel is for. Your channel is the hardcore Conan stuff. So we each play our role. So, but that aside, Spectre has a question. Did you guys read The Valley of the Lost, Howard's Western, where the last remnants of the Serpent Men show up? No, I didn't. I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm learning a lot. I love that. Thank you, Spectre.
I haven't got to the Westerns. No. It's really interesting, though.
Well,
that's really interesting.
I'll just admit that I've been sticking to mostly Conan stuff across different media. I'm still getting acquainted with a lot. I've read a great deal of the cult stuff and whatnot, but the Western stuff I've not gotten the chance to. I've read a bit of the Solomon Kane now, but just a little bit to get a taste, but I've not touched any of the Western stuff. I do hope to do so. If not this year, next year, because like we have a lot of content to make, and there's a lot of Conan stuff to read through and sift through for the channel. But yeah, I'm surprised you haven't read the Western. You're the Howard. You're the one more knowledgeable about Howard here. You're the expert.
No, I haven't delved that deep. Like I said, I was surprised there was much other stuff Howard had written. So it's been a journey, this whole thing, the channel and all that stuff. So like I will said before, like I don't consider myself anything. Just learning things and making and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's back to the there's two subspecies. Like there's the serpent and then the man serpent. Two different species that I don't know whether they deviated. Probably because of different mating with different things. Because later it says that the serpent men kind of like became less pure, so they became dumb, like they became
diluted.
Not as diluted, not as a pure race as they once were, because they mated with or reptiles or stuff like that. I don't know, and it kind of hindered them because they had been killed so much. Like Carl basically almost eradicated them all. Like he went on a rampage and basically and ended every serpent. Just a few of them survived. But that's it's interesting. The serpent men are like, they have men's bodies with serpent heads, while the man's are the opposite. They got a serpent body and a man's head. And in the story, the God in the Bowl, that's where a man serpent shows up, which Conan fights. And they're very interesting. They have the face of a man, obviously from the name, but their hair, or well, it's not hair, but looks like hair, are serpents as well. They like resemble Medusa.
Oh, I see.
That
with the different
Medusa,
snake hair.
They have like snakes coming like that, and they can, as I understood it, they can hypnotize and stuff like that as well. But they're more like that race is more secluded. The man serpents, like they like to be in the temples, and they like to be off from the humans. They don't want that much
They don't
to do with.
interact.
Yeah, they don't really want to interact with humans, and they just want to be more on their own. Whereas the serpent they are the ones who want to dominate countries and the world. I've so much found interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting. It's well, to make a Dragonlance reference, it's the difference between the Qualinesti and the Sylvanesti. You have the Qualinesti elves who want to interact with the world, and you have the Sylvanesti elves who are like, nope, we don't like the outside world. We're cutting ourselves off. And Spectre references that the Valley of the Lost is in the Horror Stories of Robert E. Howard book. Okay. I'll definitely have to look that up. I regret I've not had time to do more horror content. Red Nails is more a one of the horror Conan stories, but I would have liked to have been able to do more horror content of Howard's this year, but for next year I'll aim to have more of those horror stories and whatnot. So I'll have to get that book. Thanks, Spectre. Although speaking of
no, I did order that book, but it never arrived. So.
Oh. Okay.
So.
Well, apparently, from what I read up on one of the wikias of Howard, there's like 5 different wikias that has information on Conan lore, which is a little confusing trying to patch, like all the lore together, because you have the Conan Exiles wikia, you have Conan wikia, you've got the Marvel Conan wikia, or at least Conan in the context of Marvel. You've got, so trying to reconcile all the information was tiresome. I say tiresome, it was a lot of work. But from what I understand it, the Serpent Men were pretty hard hit as well by the cataclysm that struck that ended the Thurian Age sometime after Kull's death. So that dealt a big blow. And by the time of the Hyborian Age, they're on the retreat. I think, well, from what I saw in the Wikia and on Grimdark's channel, I have to give him a lot of shout outs. His channel's just so great. A lot of the Serpent Men have retreated to a small, well, I say small, actually a large, hidden enclave of sorts below ground. And I'm not entirely familiar with some of that lore, as that seems to be mostly connected to Conan Exiles, I think, which I do think it should be mentioned, as there's some interesting lore in Conan Exiles. I've not played the game yet. I tried Age of Conan, but I haven't tried Conan Exiles. But it seems like Conan Exiles has some pretty interesting lore.
Yeah, I've tried it. Wasn't for me. Survival games. RPG.
Yeah.
From different places. I think the Serpent Men are interesting in the way that I think I had in mind there were other prehistoric races that were the dominant ones in the millions of years ago. Serpent Men was one of them, and they were the first empire basically, and they hated the king of Valusia.
Yeah.
So in a way, thinking about it, it's basically the usurper. The Valusian kingdom.
Well, he is.
Serpent's kingdom. Yeah.
He is the usurper.
So
and it's chilling that they basically enslaved the people without the people realizing it. And yeah, he does usurp the kingdom from them and tears it away from being a Serpent Man kingdom and turns it into I guess you could say, a man's kingdom or humans' kingdom.
Yeah.
And another ancient race is the gorilla men mentioned in the Queen of the Black Coast story, although I think they're further to the east. There was a branch of them that was to the east, and there's also a branch of them that were in the west. But yeah, Volusia certainly seems to have been Serpent Man. Kull came in and just usurped it and said, mine. And yeah, that's something that's a little funny to think about. But on the other hand, I still have the opinion it kind of was also, it may have started as a human kingdom, but then the Snake Men overtook it. And I don't think the people realized who was in charge. And yeah, Kull took over. One thing we had talked about right before the stream was how there was a Serpent Man story written by Decca and Carter Lynn, and it involves Conan, as you said, in his 50s, and his son Khan, or Conan II, eliminating even more of the Serpent Men in a story called Shadows in the Skull, which, just off the hop, I'm going to say I don't like the title. It doesn't feel Howardian.
It's too similar. Like there's type of story, so it's kind of similar. It's a bit like the Curse of the Golden Skull.
Yeah.
It's kind of basic title. Definitely, if anyone wants more about the Serpent Men, that's probably a good read because it's about the final battle with Thamon, basically the main villain against Conan, even though they don't really interact in a lot in the original stories. He's mostly like the Emperor in Star Wars. He's he's doing stuff in the shadows, but he's not face to face.
Snake Pope, as Grimdark calls him.
Yeah. So, but that's probably an interesting story because Thothamon retreats to the Serpent Men. They've always been his allies because they worship the same god. They worship Set. So there's stories where the man serpents, they give them for Thothamon, so I guess they're really loyal to him. The Stygian sorcerers. But I guess that they have the same idea. Well, in another story as well, the Thothamon, I think he wanted to make a new or raise the Acheron Empire and rule again with the Serpent Men, or
yeah, that seems to have been his dream. And we have a chat comment which I think you'll find funny. A modern day Serpent Man telling a story to a young hatchling would make a good narrative device, from Grimdark. And then he adds, also Snake Pope. Yeah, I think that would make an interesting narrative device. And hello and welcome to Jasper Lane. He and I are doing a collab soon. We're going to be we've been working on the script a little, just to give people a little whet their appetite. He's more a Game of Thrones guy, I think, and a really good one. And yeah, Jasper, this is a Conan stream. Hence World of Conan being here.
You gonna delve into Game of Thrones?
I've been delving a little into it, doing only 1 or 2 videos. I'm actually a bit of a hater, but
They need me a hater.
But you know what? People really like having me review the new TV show, so I figure why not review it? And you know what? I'm having a bit of fun with that. Why not? And you know what? Just because I'm not the biggest fan of the, I guess you could say, product, doesn't mean I have antagonism towards the fans. As most of the fan base I've been able to get along really well with. Every Game of Thrones person I've ever met are just such champs.
Yeah, of course, completely two different things. I just mean the TV show and well, Martin himself basically made me. I couldn't care less about that franchise anymore, and I was a huge fan of the books and TV show up to a point. The Game of Thrones, not the new one, but I just don't care. Yeah, he can take how, like, I don't think the books are gonna come out, March's books, but like I said, I don't care.
No.
It doesn't matter to me anymore. I just completely detached from the whole world. I have no interest anymore.
I get that.
Yeah,
I just see it as I may have, like, I read the books years ago and fell out of love rather quickly, but I figure well, there are some things I liked, and you know what, why not play nice with the fan base? And a lot of them are great people, and you know what, we can have fun, and I could serve as a bit of a bridge from Game of Thrones to classic mythology and fantasy literature like Howard, Tolkien, and whatnot. That's what this channel is, so as said before. So if I'm providing a service like that, I'm happy. And
didn't Martin say that he wanted to work everything Tolkien did? Did he
well,
kind of say he?
Yeah, he came. Yeah, he is subverting like a lot of the Tolkien tropes and whatnot. Which I think that could be its own video. Just to get back, like, I do recognize that is true. I just think I wanted to also discuss Thulsa Doom from the movie as a Serpent Man, which real quick,
that's awesome.
just to get on that. Sorry, I find that an exciting topic. And that would be the 1982 movie, because I just saw someone in the chat comment on the Jason Momoa movie. No, we're not going to discuss that one. I'm not familiar with that one. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it's not that good, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But they like I've said in so many of my videos, they chose one of the worst directors ever to direct that movie.
Yeah.
And I can't fathom how and why, seeing his back catalog. It's like...
Oh, sorry. We've got another big YouTuber in the chat, Michael K. Vaughan. I really enjoy his channel. If Conan was in Game of Thrones, he would have conquered the whole continent. It would only take him 60 pages to do it. Yeah, I agree. I do think that Conan would conquer the whole darn thing, and yeah, he's that kind of character. He'd conquer the whole of the land and just say, I'm king now. And he wouldn't need dragons to do it. He'd just go out and conquer it all.
He would have really hated the politics of Game of Thrones. He would just wanted to behead everyone and be done with it.
Yeah. He would have just... There's been a lot of massacring.
He would not have...
Sorry, a lot of executions, I mean. It's like, wow.
He would just...
It'd be comparable to the French Revolution.
Like the last video I did, the Songs of the Dead in the story. There's such a classic Conan moment when one of the characters is enamored with an artifact, and this artifact, well, they want to use it to evil purposes, and Conan just looks like single glance like once, and then immediately beheads that person. Immediately beheads that person. It's like, okay, well, that's done. Let's go for a beer. Like he sees the situation immediately. Okay, this person is going to use this for evil purpose, and he immediately just cuts the head off and just goes on his day. And like Crisis. Let's go.
Yeah, good job, well done.
care
Pats
about
himself
this.
on the back.
I'm not going to entertain
Right
this
off
idea,
the
and I
prison.
thought that was just so perfect. Yeah,
That is,
I thought
for
that
some
was just
reason,
a
that
perfect
reminds me of
Conan
Indiana
response,
Jones or
like-
Kyle Katarn.
I don't have.
Okay,
I don't have
that
time.
is something I will acknowledge. Conan has over every other character in fiction. He's just not. He doesn't care. He's just gonna lop the evil guy's head off and say,
Yeah.
"Done. I ain't dealing with this." Yeah, that's certainly one
Yeah.
kind of difference between Howard and Tolkien. But in a way, like just to get over to the '82 movie. That movie kind of boils down to a serpent man versus
Yeah.
men kind of conflict, and goes into like it. I like that. To me, it seems like a plot twist now. Like that Thulsa Doom in there is a snake man, or at least he can turn himself into a serpent in a way, because at least I tend to think of him as a snake man in a way, because he's disguising himself as a mortal man when he's not a mortal man. And there's just something off about him. He has more of a connection to Set than he does to human men.
Mhm.
Or am I reaching?
They mentioned that in the movie, like the cult of Set, the serpent god. So it's definitely connected in that. Now thinking about it, like now that we talked about serpent and stuff like that, they chose Thulsa Doom that is a Conan villain and not a Conan villain, which is strange. But that was reasons because of the director, because he liked Kull more than Conan. He liked the Kull stories more. I think he was
Oh, I didn't know that.
but they had doing that, so more popular. But anyway, now thinking about the villain, even though it's from the Kull stories, Serpent Men never left. Like they were still around during the Hyborian Age. So having a Serpent Man as a villain, that's not weird. That's perfectly in line with Howard's stuff. I think
And that's something
yeah.
I do love about John Milius. He brought in that core part of the, like almost that first Kull story, and like made it connected it to the Conan movie. So that, I don't know, to me it feels natural for, like, I don't agree with every decision made in the movie. I don't agree with some elements of the backstory, like the Wheel of Misfortune or whatever that thing was, or Conan being liberated by someone else. But the idea of a snake man coming in and there being a clash in Conan's early years is something I do love the idea of. That's something I find is really cool. And I'm also going to once again read from the chat. Grimdark said, I would love to see you guys go over the Barsoom series. Yeah, I'm only familiar with that for your channel, Grimdark. I've not yet read that yet. I will have to sit down and read that at some point. And at some point, maybe
John Carter.
we'll have to do some videos on Barsoom after I reach 1,000 subs. For now, I've got enough of an uphill battle. YouTube confusing the YouTube algorithm with 3 different types of content. But what are your thoughts on, like, also like just how you've also got the fact that some of the weapons of Thulsa Doom, I don't think they showed up in the Howard stories. Like the snake seems more, that's more Milius, I think. I don't know, but like, what are your thoughts on that bit? Like, that seemed really cool, but I don't think that's actually from Howard's old stories.
Yeah. No. But I liked it though. I thought it was really
Yeah.
clever. Fuse magic with a weapon, so it's not just an arrow,
Mm.
but it's an magical abilities or attached to it, basically.
Yeah, and the other thing that seems a little, I'm going to say that this might sound weird to find this unnerving, but one of the main aspects that I find unnerving is that Thulsa Doom in the movie is, yeah, he's got great hypnotic abilities, illusionary abilities, but the thing I found the most chilling is, and unnerving, I don't know if it's just me, but thinking about it, is that he's convinced thousands of human beings, into following him and his cult when it's at its core anti-human, and even gotten them to care for snakes, and they're basically man killers and man eaters to an extent. They're caring for them. Like, you have the one guy taking care of, who had for a pet, that giant serpent, and he's convinced them, even down to a princess, to, like, this is the way to go. This is the best thing one can imagine for your people and for yourself. And that's where it has, as you mentioned, a chilling echo to the Shadow Kingdom in a way. But the Snake Men of Kul Zera were doing it without really making it open, like an open fact that they are worshipping Set, or that they're, well, not that they're worshipping Set, but that they're basically the snake cult. While by the time of the Conan movie, they, like, Thulsa Doom is out in public basically saying, yes, here, as Grimdark Better words it, hi, I'm Thulsa. Welcome to my religion. I call it misanthropy. But don't worry, we're not human. Yeah, very good point. What are your thoughts on that part of the movie?
I feel sorry to say, but it kind of what has happened in real life.
Yeah.
Didn't they take? I'm not sure if this was correct, but didn't they take they take influence to the movie from like culters? And I mean, there's been, if you look at human history, like most of the religions have had human sacrifice in them.
Yeah.
Over the whole planet. So, and all just awful stuff. People have persecuted others for whatever reasons. So, and cannibalism has been like used a lot in different aspects, religious and otherwise. So I mean, it didn't really, in that way, kind of like it wasn't really shocking. Kind of the opposite, actually.
Yeah. Well, no, I just mean, like, in regards to, like, the Snake Men,
Jim Jones,
public advertising they're the enemies of humanity almost, and saying, join us. And
but are they?
Was almost.
Are they more kind of saying we're the new way, the future? In a different way, we're gonna take mankind to another level, and the old ways have to die. That's basically what he says in his speech. The old ways have to die.
Yeah, which kind of, not to get political or anything, kind of reminds me of Lenin and Stalin and Mao and whatnot. Like, communism 100 years ago and whatnot, kind of reminds me of that. We have to destroy all the old, like a lot of the old cultural artifacts and whatnot of the country. It's time for a new way, when all that's doing is damaging your civilization. And these are, like, you look at Chinese history, Russian history, very beautiful history, very beautiful civilizations, but ultimately very damaged by these.
Yeah, they still suffer from those. Yeah,
Yeah.
they
But-
have long-lasting legacy in those countries.
So I'm just going to ask, and this is a thought that occurred to me just now. So would you say that, given that John Milius wanted to do a Kull movie instead, would you say that in a way the Conan movie from 1982 is intended as a sequel to the Shadow Kingdom short story?
Well, I don't think a sequel, but now thinking like now we have been talking subject, Serpent Men and Kull, and knowing that Milius seemed he Kull more, so he must have read the Shadow Kingdom a lot, and been inspired from that. So I guess he basically disguised like a Kull with a lot of elements from Kull, the Kull stories. I would say probably, maybe, but I don't think it was a sequel. He didn't think of it as a sequel. I don't know if he wanted to do a Kull movie specifically.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you had mentioned that. I must have misheard. So, yeah, it's certainly like it certainly has elements of both, and I think that's a strength of the movies of the movie. I mean, that it captures a lot of the feel of both, but it like the movie has its weaknesses, but it has, I think, the strengths of both the Kull and the Conan stories, and kind of brings them together. And in some ways, it truly feels like a Howard story, but in other ways, okay, I'm going to come out and say it because I really like the Kevin Sorbo Kull movie, but the Kevin Sorbo Kull movie feels more like a Howard story than the 1982 movie, but the 1982 movie certainly feels like, to an extent, like a Howard story. Oh, did you freeze? Oh, not a good connection on his end, I think. Or is it on my end? I never know with my internet connection some days. All right. I'm just going to give him another minute because this stream went on for a bit longer than I intended, but I do want to hear what Conan's thoughts. Oh, shoot, I'm all alone. Okay. I have to give him another minute, but okay. Well, I'm going to start a bit of an outro just so you guys get fair warning so that when he gets back online, he'll give his thoughts. Oh, here he is. Sorry about that.
It's probably my connection. Living out here in the woods, the connection is not the best, unfortunately.
So your thoughts on the... Oh, shoot. I'm so tired. My brain's not working. On the fact that, like, in a way, the Conan 1982 movie kind of brought the strengths of Kull stories and Conan stories and brought them together.
Yeah, I was saying I really think the 82 is really Howard in spirit and in nature. Like, it's really grounded in history, and it has the feeling, atmosphere, and the music of it. I understand it upsets some Conan fans. Comments that just absolutely hate that movie. I mean, fair enough. I understand that the character is not perfect representation of Conan. If you basically take the beginning half, the gladiator slave part away, like it's pretty close.
Yeah.
more close to Conan. So I mean,
I'm not gonna lie. My favorite part of the movie is it might sound weird, but kind of there's a lot of the James Earl Jones stuff, but there's also the beginning just with Conan's dad kind of telling him, like the story of Crom and the Riddle of Steel. I really love that part of the movie. I think that part's one of the best parts.
Yeah, I absolutely love the movie. They don't make like those kind of movies anymore. It's really they let it breathe because Milius wanted to make an opera. That's what he said. He made an opera, basically. So
and it feels like
music. The music is speaking all the time, but the characters not so much. They show great scenery and lore and stuff like that.
1 second, the dog just opened the door. I gotta just close the door because the dog knows how to open the door and sometimes even turn the knob some days. Then he pretends he doesn't know. Yeah. I don't know how the dog figured out how to do it. None of us do.
Send it to the store to get food.
Actually, he once opened the door to outside and slipped out. And yeah, that scared me. And we've been trying to figure out how he did that because the doors to the house are much more secure than the bedroom doors. And he's the smartest dog we've ever had. He's just, he's also one of those big dogs. Lab Mastiff mix. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
labs are nice.
He's a crafty little devil. But,
yeah, I got a couple of dogs.
Oh, okay. What breeds?
Yeah. They're both. Is it a Lapland Hound? Kind of different in English language.
Okay.
But they're basically the dogs that are used for herding the reindeer.
Oh, okay. I got a good idea of the breeds. Okay. Well, I don't have much else to say on the Snake Men topic, at least as far as I know right now, because I know they're used more as villains in the comics and in later stories, but I'm not familiar with those stories quite yet. I'm hoping to be. That's the thing with these channels. I think this is kind of us exploring these mythologies and learning with each story and mining the depths, as Dan put it the other day, mining the depths of a great mineral store of sorts of stories and always learning something new and trying to learn something new and sharing it on kind of the internet. So at least that's how we tend to think of our exploration of the Conan Call universe. So is there anything you want to add before we go?
Not especially. Just that men is a really interesting race. I think that was a good invention from Howard, and like that they are a presence, even though they're not much in the Conan stories, but that it's a presence that it has been around for like millions of years. So they're like a kind of a threat that is always out there. So and like it's kind of like a mythological race, like aspects of a serpent, but that can walk and talk. So it's really interesting.
I'm not gonna lie. They're actually one of my favorite fantasy or mythology or whatever races so far. In that, I love that. I love them as villains. Like, I know, I like. Part of me wishes you can kind of mix and match them into the world of Arda, like Lord of the Rings and whatnot. Because I'd love to see how the Serpent Men might interact with Sauron's forces and how they might interact. Like, I'd love to see Gandalf have to match wits with some of them. I know that's a weird geeky thought, but they are beyond cool. And something you said reminds me of kind of the Sith in the prequel movies, just like Darth Bane's order, where the idea is they're always in the shadows, observing the Jedi and scheming their takeover. And yeah, the Serpent Men definitely have that feel, and great stories. Generally, the Serpent Men seem to make every story better in terms of quality. Yeah. Anyways, I think that's almost all I've got. Though we were discussing right before the stream possible future streams between our two channels. And I don't know if you mind me just launching it at the audience that we're currently discussing when Dan and I finally make our way to reading Hour of the Dragon for the first time, doing a series of joint streams where we'll be studying and overanalyzing and examining Hour of the Dragon in as great depth as we possibly can, because that story looks great. And I don't know how the chat will feel about us doing that, such as Grimdark or Vaughn. Those guys do such a great job with the text, but I think it'd be great if our two channels collabed, since basically you were saying you were the one who's like mentioned you wanted to do another collab, and we keep finding ourselves in the position of constantly coming back together and doing collabs. We might as well just make this a long-term thing and tackle Hour of the Dragon, the big one.
Yeah, I mean it's no pressure in like talking about it. I think you just have to go from a fan perspective, not like not prepared from a expert. Just enjoy the story and then just talk about it, like what you thought about it and different aspects. So definitely that would be cool. Then we can do like different stories as well, like when like you were talking about the horror stories. We can go to those stories at some point, like in the future and stuff like that. So because there's definitely some really good horror stories I've heard that Howard has written, for example.
And I'm a big fan of horror.
Stephen King said one of his favorites is Pigeons from Hell. Like that's supposedly a really good horror story by Howard. So
well, I'm glad you're on board. And after Hour of the Dragon, we could start to explore the other Howardian tales and epics. Because that would be really, really cool and fun. Anyways, Jasper Lane just commented, "Stop teasing the audience." Okay. So I'm gonna say it's not yet. I'm gonna put it up on in the commission tomorrow, because I'm gonna hit the sack, and I'm going to just say go to World of Conan's channel and smash that like button on every single one of his videos. Subscribe. His channel, great content.
Thanks.
I recommend The Mountain of Crom. Once again, I love that video. I keep re-listening to it, and a bunch of the other stuff.
Did you see the last one?
Oh no, I haven't had the time this week. What was it?
No, it was the Conan, the Songs of the Dead.
Oh, I gotta see that.
A couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
yeah, you gotta see that. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, okay, I'll definitely do that, and I'll have to smash that like and button myself. It's just the past week or two. It's just
no problem. No. Whenever you can.
Yep, I'll definitely watch that tomorrow while I'm working on some of the videos. And anyone who's interested in this channel, don't forget to smash the like on this stream. It'll help it immensely.
Smash that everything.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, anyway. Thanks for a great talk, and thanks for all the guys in the chat hanging around, giving good questions. It's really cool.
They make it possible.
It's all a journey.
Yep.